head coach Ben Olsen. Ben, just to kick it off, first day back, full day back for everybody. How's it going? What are the vibes looking back at the win and then looking ahead to Kansas City here?
Yeah, today's just really getting kind of a pulse on how the guys are feeling. It was nice to step away. And again, a very light day coming back, just kind of a re-entry and a little bit more reviewing us this week, the game itself, the series, and still trying to get better even at this point in the year, pushing and trying to find some little advantages, all with an eye on Kansas City and making sure we're starting to think about them and how they go about the game. And then into next week we'll really dial in on them in a deeper way and get ready for what is going to be a very go ahead.
Thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. Does that mean you didn't get any of that?
No, I got it on my natural
Any
mic.
of those words of wisdom? I was really in my flow.
Ugh, got it.
Cool. Yeah, and we'll just dial in on them in a deeper way next week and get ready for a game that we're excited about. The organization's excited about. Hopefully, our fans are excited about, and that they understand how important they are to this game and creating the right atmosphere at Shell Energy is going to be critical for us to have success. So we need them to come out. We want to pack the place. We'd love a sellout, and hopefully we can be at our best because we'll have to be to get past Kansas City.
How do you feel about this long 2-week break?
I hate bye weeks. We've had enough of them this year. The way the year is shaped out, it's been like, either feast or famine, right? It's just been like game after game after game, and then it's this 2-week break from the international time. And at times it comes at the right time. Kansas City's in the same boat. In fact, they've been off even longer. So it's a tricky task from the staff and for the players to kind of stay on that edge, but also relax and take advantage of the time to heal and make sure your mind or body are rested and ready to roll, but still keep that sharpness. So it's a dance, and I think over the course of the year, we've come out of bye weeks in the right way with the right mentality. So at this point, we have a recipe for it, and we'll stick with that. But also knowing we've been going at this for 10 months, and that sometimes it's also okay to have a little fun during this time and make sure we're enjoying this process, because it does get again 10 months in, it gets a little bit old and stale, so you got to mix it up a little bit.
Ben, just to follow up on that, in other sports when there are extra days off, we ask the coach and players about rust. But how do you make? You were talking about, you touched on it a little bit about you got to keep your edge, but how do you make sure you do that?
Well, we can't keep our edge every day for 2 weeks, right? That's a sure way to burn these guys out and burn the staff out. So it is, as I said, it's a dance, and you got to make sure though within those 2 weeks there's some days that we're turning it up and that we're mimicking the kind of the intensity and the focus that is needed when Kansas City comes in town next Sunday. So that's kind of the balance. But again, we've done this enough over the course of the year, and bye weeks aren't anything new over the last several decades. So it's something we're fairly used to. But it does change a little bit, and it does change also, being that it's 10 months into the year. We're not going to get any fitter right now. I don't think we're going to change that much about our crew and how we go about it. So just managing through it.
I guess your veteran leadership is key in doing that.
Well, they're key in everything we do. And yes, the tone they set, in particular the guys that have been around and have been through these stretches and been in playoff games and these moments. And then even if you've been in the playoffs in this league, more often than not, there is a bye week in there, and understanding the focus and the rhythm of it, I think it does help when your veteran players are a part of the decision-making process.
Why is Griffin able to be so effective both as part of your back line, but also creating chances for you guys in the attacking third?
Well, I guess the structure in which we play, or in particular on the offensive end, really allows him to be free and to go forward and push teams back. He's got a big engine. He's got some big lungs, and he can run up and down all day long. He's fit. He takes care of himself. He's a good pro. And he used to be an attacker. So he's one of these guys that scored goals and was in the attacking mix for most of his life. So that's not an unnatural position for him. But to his credit, he's really adapted well to being a good defender and understanding what the other side of the ball looks like and how he can be effective without the ball. So this is his second, third year of really kind of being focused on the defensive end. So the attacking part is very natural for him, just about us getting him in the right spots and building in a way where he can be successful. So it's been a lot of fun to watch his growth in this spot. It's certainly his best season as a pro, and really hopefully this is something that he can continue to do and is sustainable. And I think, again, because of his mentality and the pro he is, I don't see any reason it shouldn't be.
Was there an area of improvement specifically that you said, midway through the summer, okay, I think he's ready for this larger role?
Yeah, I think defensively would be where he's improved in his positioning, his understanding of what we're asking of him. And again, as I said, the offensive part's fairly natural for him. And I think that, coupled with his the work off the field he's done in the film room, and again, I've talked about Griffin knocking on our door and saying, I'm not playing. Why? Tell me what I can do and show me. And anytime he got minutes or even at trainings, he's going over the film. And so he's a real student of the game right now, and he's worked on it, and that's good. And the way we're playing right now, again, the structure and the way we go about it lends him to have success.
Corey is contract up through the end of the season, yet he just scored his first MLS playoff goal. How are you feeling with Corey? Is it more of a reset, or is it a different approach heading into Kansas City?
A reset on.
Well, that's a separate question.
Yeah, okay.
Separate question.
Yes, Corey's up at the end of the year. He's had a good year. Coming into this year, getting Corey to be at his best was an important task for the staff to really get the most out of Corey, because he's had years where he's played at a really high level. He's had some years where I think he's underachieved, and that's not necessarily on him. Sometimes it's a team or the structure or whatever. Putting him in a position to have success was critical in this process, and we talked about it at length in the off season and when I was approaching this job. And ironically, it wasn't in the position he is right now. It was designed for him to be somewhere else. So that's about as much as I know. But that's how the seasons go. And his versatility has really helped us out this year. He's played on the left. He's played on the right. And he's put most of his games as a number 9 in a spot where, it's not been a spot he's that comfortable with or has played a lot of pro minutes as kind of that solo 9. So he's embraced it. Defensively, he's been unbelievable. He really is able to shape the game. He's got a good engine, and he's been able to score quite a few goals for us in important games. So he's been great, and we'd love to have him back. That's the other part. I don't like agents. I don't talk to them. I'm in a nice, comfortable spot where I don't have to speak to agents. It's wonderful, and I let some other people, do that part. Pat and Asher, they'll work through that and hopefully we can keep them.
As a player, you also went through this kind of put it into words, kind of what you're feeling.
Free agents?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they're able to separate it. You know, I think they understand that this is the business and that, you know, I think the players on the guys that aren't playing and or fighting to have a job or, you know, don't know the next step. I feel for those guys a little bit more than I do the guys that are doing really well and playing and have options, and whether it's here or somewhere else. This is part of the business, and they're able to separate it. You know, they're both, you know, especially when they're good human beings, and both of those guys are team guys, selfless, and all they want to do is focus. You know, all they want to do is reward our fans and play at a high level for us to make a run at this thing, because that's ultimately what players want. They want championships. This is what, when everything shakes out at the end. The moments I remember are the championships, not the contracts and things like this. So if you're able to make a great run and get another trophy, this is the important thing, and they know that.
Versus reset and set yourself up differently, but with coming up and you had 3 matches, not just one, but your 3 playoff matches so far. You watched 3 matches of tape. What do you see? Is it more of a resort, or is it a different approach going into Kansas City? Knowing that you guys have not had the most winning of a record with them in the regular season.
This is it's a funny journey that they have been on. Probably not funny for Peter, because the beginning seemed like a nightmare for him. You know, the injuries and then, you know, it clicked around the time they came here and played very well, and they and the win that they had against us in Kansas City. Since then, they've been the best team in the league, and they've gotten healthy, and they're a real handful. So you will approach them in the way you know we did in the regular season. We're a different team now. I think they are as well. So again, we got 2 weeks to really dive deep into kind of who they were, who they are now, and what the expectations are of how they'll go against us. And neither team's going to probably be drastically changing what they've done to get to this point. That's why we're here. But there will be tweaks, and both teams will try to outthink each other. Peter, I have an enormous amount of respect for. I think he's one of the greatest coaches this league has ever seen. I think he's a visionary. I think he's transformed that club into one of the great clubs in this country. And yeah, I just can't. And you'll hear me say this for the 2 weeks. I mean, he is just he's a very, very impressive guy and coach and leader. And you know, I'm looking forward to going against him. But I know it'll be very tough.
Does it change things for you and the team with Logan and Dembe being out?
With what?
Logan and Dembe being out for ACL?
Yes. They don't have a kind of a like for that type of player. He's just so good, and he was a big part of the attack, and we saw that a little bit when I think away. So, but they're deep. They're deep. They'll pop somebody in there that's certainly capable, and if you look at that, and their depth is real. Their midfield is very, very solid. Their attacking crew is as good as they come right now in the league. The front five, and you know, a little bit of the difference between them and Salt Lake is their central midfield. You know, I think their central midfield is different in the way they go about things than Salt Lake. Salt Lake ended up being more direct and bypassing the midfield more so than not. They have the ability to do that, but they also play through the midfield. So there's different ways they can go about hurting you. So we'll have to be dialed in on that and prepared. But it's going to be a great game. I'm really looking forward to it.
Ben, I'm curious how you introduce the game plan.
by little, drip feed this week. Very, very slow drip feed, and then next week we'll start dialing in. I think you can. I was tossing around the idea of throwing some old Kansas City, Houston playoff games up on the big screen in the morning, letting them feel the rivalry a little bit, and it's probably good for me to remind myself of that. I didn't, come from DC. I knew they played some intense games, but when I got here, I didn't understand how much this game means to our fans and their fans. And so I've asked Gorelli and Colin, who's on our staff, who was in some of those games for Kansas City, about them. And so, yeah, I don't know if that answered your question, but what was your question?
I just wanted to know how
Yeah.
quickly you're gonna dive into the game plan, or just like
Yeah,
that,
again,
just
this
like
week's
that?
a little bit of a drip feed. Next week we'll turn it up, and I think you can do it too early. As I said, we'll focus on ourselves and getting better, but with an eye on, those exercises, or what our focus is on getting better, with an eye on that, making sure we do that for Kansas City and understanding them. But it's a long 2 weeks, but we'll get there.
Yeah, you answered my question coming up about the rivalry, how
Yeah.
much you knew about it, and that's great that you're gonna.
Yeah, I knew it because leading into those games we had with Kansas City, I felt it a little bit, and there was some chatter around that in the locker rooms and things like that. But we have a new team too. We have 18, 19 players, so of course it's real, and I think it's sometimes that rivalry is more an organizational thing, and fans versus fans, than the actual players. But because it's a playoff game, it's a pretty big game. So if you're not charged up for this, I don't think we need any more motivation. And I certainly don't think Kansas City needs any more motivation.
One person?
Yep, playing a whole different team.
Yeah, and I guess with guys like Alan Pulido, is there part of the game plan to isolate a guy like that?
Isolate him. We need to be very, very concerned with Pulido. He is been a handful, and it's no coincidence when he got healthy and came back into their squad that they've gone on the run that they've gone. He's a big piece of it in the box underneath. He's good at again finding these little pockets, but also he can go in behind, and he's a killer in the box. So he's a tricky one. Good.
Who do you think he'll challenge most on the pitch?
It'll be our central midfielders, our center backs. He can pop up in a bunch of different spots if he's hitting the channels. Our outside backs come into play, and outside midfielders, wherever he's popping up, he's a problem. So it's always a group effort. But yes, of course, the center backs and some of the box defending, depending on how the game looks. As we attack, he's a guy we really need to deal with in transition and make sure we're tight on. But they got a few. It's not just him. It's a pretty impressive attacking 4 or 5.
We have one via Zoom real quick.
Okay.
Jesus, go ahead.
Hi, Coach.
Hi, Jesus.
From a coaching perspective, are you and the coaching staff enjoying the process of these playoffs, the tweaks and adjustments that must be made game in and game out?
The Salt Lake game?
Just in general, in these playoffs, are you guys enjoying the small tweaks that you guys need to make in each game?
Yeah, I thought the Salt Lake game was really fascinating. The Salt Lake series, when it goes to 3, you're just so familiar with the team. And I know other sports deal with this in basketball and hockey, and they even go further, right, with the game 7 sometimes. The back and forth and the little tweaks from game to game. Again, it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed it, and I think our staff managed it pretty well. And they're a tough out. Salt Lake is a playoff team. They seem to play their best in the tougher moments. So I know it wasn't. We get a little heat for not beating them in straight sets, as they say, or 3-0. And again, I love that our expectations have changed, that we should all of a sudden blow out a team like Salt Lake, who had 1 point less than us in the regular season, and has been a playoff team and a gritty team and a really tough out. So it was just happy to move on. It was not easy. Maybe it wasn't our best, but part of that is because the opponent's tough, and playoff soccer is different.
What can you take, from that tight game? Is there anything you can take into this game?
Maybe, if it's a tight game. I don't know. You have your ideas on how the game plays out, but many times that goes out the window with an early goal, or or you get scored on early. There's just so many variations within the game that the game changes. So having players that are experienced and adaptive and understand the moment and how to deal with certain situations, and prepping them throughout the year of okay, we've been in this situation, we've been in that situation, here's what this looks like. So giving them as much information beforehand, so they're prepared for the kind of the deviations of a game, or the twists and turns of a match.
We'll wrap with two more.
Mm-hmm.
Two more, Jorge and Ubaldo, and then we'll wrap it up there.
We had lunch. I mean, this was this long, man. How are you?
Can you hear me?
I got you.
Gotcha. Hey, Coach. First time for you.
Another Amber Alert here in Houston. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, you good. First time for you being back in a conference semifinal since 2015 for the club, 2017. How important is that for the club and yourself, if you want to look at it like that?
Do you know where that game was?
I can check really quick.
Why don't you check really quick?
Yes, sir.
We got all day.
You had New York Red Bulls.
Okay. That was Houston. Was it Houston? Yeah, I think it was Houston.
No, that's for yourself, but 2017 was.
Okay. Anyways, I got you. But so I forgot your question. I was being clever. I thought the answer was Houston. I remember playing a playoff game here, and we got robbed by the referee.
You won't forget that.
I won't forget that. I'll never forget that game.
Question just with how important is it to return for yourself and for the club?
Yeah, it's for the club and our fans and the players. I don't get caught up in my kind of legacy world or what I'm doing. That's kind of for when I can maybe look back at another time, or when the season's over. Maybe I can appreciate some of the individual growth or development, or what what this meant to me, kind of starting new and coming to a new city and having somewhat of a successful season so far. That's for after the season. I'm just so excited for this, that this club is in an important game, and it's been a while since this club has been that far, and that means a lot to me, that we are putting more eyeballs on this club, and that we built this and we're a little ahead of schedule, and kind of revitalizing, maybe not the right word, but kind of re-energizing a fan base and a club.
All right. Ubaldo, go ahead, and then we'll wrap it up there.
Hey, Coach.
Hey.
You kind of touched on this a little bit ago about the 3-game series. Are you kind of glad to go back to the regular playoff format, single elimination game? And kind of what are the advantages and disadvantages of having just one chance to kind of beat the opponent?
Well, it's nice to be home, right? And yes, if it was a one-off, and we were playing in Kansas City, yeah, maybe I prefer the 3-game series. But the fact that it's a one-off at home, we'll take that. Again, we've worked really hard over the last 2 months to get the higher seed, and we're seeing kind of some of the fruit of those two months of creeping up the table. So yeah, I'm fine with not doing the 3. It's a lot of games, and if you do that every time, I think at this stage in the season, I just think it's a lot. So one is fine for me. The format itself, looking back on it, if they win in a PK shootout and they lose and then tie 2 and win 2 PK shootouts, like them going through, you know, is that the right format? I don't know. So that doesn't necessarily sit well with me. Those are the rules. That's what it is. But I think that's something that you know, I don't know if that's really justice in a 3-game series of that they're the better team. So I think that probably can be evaluated going forward. But I understand the home games and owners wanting a home game in the playoffs. So that's kind of, I'm sure, that part of why that stands. And Apple TV is new, so they're going to have their 2 cents in this. So, yeah, it is what it is. Happy we're home, 1 off against Kansas City, and, yeah, looking forward to it. Good.
All right. Thank you.